Okay, so I've been trying to film this for literally 2 hours, and each time it's gone wrong in its own unique way. So we're just gonna do it, hopefully just one take, and oh my god, okay. Hello everyone, so today I am doing my first ever book review, and I'm a little nervous because the booktubers are awesome and amazing and really smart, and I am nowhere near their level of craft and dedication. But I read a book in 4 hours 2 nights ago, and I had some thoughts on the book, and now I'm going to share these thoughts. And coffee break. Okay, so the book we're talking about today is Alex and Eliza by Melissa de la Cruz. And I think the first thing that we have to talk about is the fact that I am a huge Hamilton fan, as shown here, and here. And having done my own research on the Schuyler's and Hamilton and just all of that stuff, I was expecting to rip this book apart historically. And, you know, I actually tweeted when I first started to read it a couple nights ago, like, I'm gonna have to like break down all these historical inaccuracies. I'll put the tweet here. But I decided that I couldn't do that, and also that I shouldn't do that. I couldn't do that because there's not a whole lot of information on Alex and Eliza's actual courtship, because she burns the letters, and you know, you don't keep records on dating. You don't keep official records on dating, that is. And so everything in this book, technically, phone, stop ringing. Do they not know I'm filming a video right now? And I also decided that I really shouldn't comment on the book's historical accuracy, because the author herself says in the acknowledgments that this is just her interpretation of the courtship, but it's not supposed to be historically accurate. And so I think because she didn't treat it as a biographical work, I shouldn't treat it as a biographical work. And then additionally, and probably more importantly, although this work was inspired by the show Hamilton, enter the cover art, it's not Hamilton. It really is not Hamilton. So we really can't compare them, but removing myself from the Hamilton world and into the Alex and Eliza world was really hard for me to do. Even like towards the end of the book, when someone would say Alex, I would still have like a flash in my memory, his face in my mind. So even though they said like 15,000 times he's a redhead. But so while I'm trying to keep Hamilton out of this, I might not always succeed during this review, and I apologize for that. So now on to the no spoilery part of this review. The book follows Eliza Schuyler and her two sisters, Angelica and Peggy, as they navigate colonial high society. And their mother has decided that all three of them are of marrying age, and her husband, who was a general in the Continental Army, but then kind of had to step down because of the defeat at the Battle of Saratoga, which he was kind of overseeing. They decide to throw a ball so that their daughters can meet potential suitors. So this is gonna be really vague, but this novel is smart and witty and just really uses the setting to drive the plot forward instead of ignoring it or, you know, trying to change it. Like I've seen in a lot of historical fiction novels, especially historical fiction romances, that just kind of forget what time period they're in. And Eliza is a really good protagonist. She's sympathetic and kind and smart and sweet. And she does actually challenge a lot of the traditional gender roles that are set forth for her at the time, which I think is amazing. And she really does passionately care about a lot of things besides finding a husband, which again, It's very rare in historical fiction novels. She's a fervent abolitionist and patriot, and I think that's a really good little character arc for her. So I'm gonna say this in a really non-specific and non-spoilerly way. This book is not perfect, but I still think it's worth a read. It's a beach read. It's really cute, and it's short. The type is big. Like, you can finish this during a day at the beach, easy. And I think that's probably contributed to its release date at the beginning of April, just saying. And Melissa De La Cruz's writing is clean and just tight and smart, and I really enjoy just like the words that she used and how she did it. So yeah, go read the book, come back and watch the rest of this video, because now it's about to get spoilery. So Hamilton and Eliza's first meeting was very unexpected for me, you know, coming out of the play, in which they love each other literally almost immediately. Eliza just being legit just mad at Hamilton, which is really funny, and her anger was completely justified. Like, there's this 19-year-old boy who literally knows nothing is coming to court-martial her father, the general. Like, I think that's just really funny, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And it was also nice that they had to start actually like liking each other and forming a friendship before, you know, anything romantic was even on the table. And for 2 years, while Alex is pining over this girl, she goes off and she gets engaged and is living her best life. And that is also really refreshing, that the guy has been pining over this girl since she may or may not have left a note for him in a handkerchief 2 years before that. I think that's just really, it's really funny. And I think the most obvious turning point in their relationship is when they're on the horse together, and he may or may not have been stalking her to figure out when she would arrive in Morristown, which is another thing. But I think the actual turning point is when she's giving him the smallpox inoculation. Because before that, like, once he like dropped her off and he came back to go check on her, she was like, no, I don't want to see him. No, don't let him in. And after that, after the inoculation, things started moving quite quickly. And that's my one real issue with this book, and actually with most romances in general. I think the most blatant example is The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon, and obviously the two characters in that book have a real connection, but still moves at lightning speed. Which is, and like they're saying I love you by the end of the day, and I do really like that book, but that's like the one thing I can't get past, and it was a little less noticeable in this. I think the one time I could really like discern that was at the end of one chapter. They kind of just decide that they're, you know, ready to have a relationship, and they're, you know, they're gonna start courting, and they're not just friends anymore. And then the beginning of the next chapter, like, they're going on sleigh rides and like have nicknames for each other, and are like just generally being like really cute. And it was just like very jarring as a reader to have that happen so quickly. And the only reason I mention it is because it did kind of take me out of the reading experience a little bit, and I in that moment I was aware I was reading a book, and that's probably the one time that actually happened while I was reading this. The rest of it was very immersive, and the writing is very immersive, so that's a good thing. But now, even though I said that we weren't going to compare Hamilton and Alex and Eliza, we're going to compare Hamilton and Alex and Eliza. But first, I'm going to check to make sure my camera is still on. Thank the Lord, because I can't film this again. I can't film this again. Okay, so now we're going to compare Hamilton and Alex and Eliza. So in Hamilton, and in real life as well, Angelica and Alexander were quite close. And in this book, they don't really talk to each other, and when they do talk to each other, she's yelling at him. And it's this one scene when Hamilton is over their aunt and uncle's house for dinner, and it's like the three musketeers, or the three boyfriends, Alex, Stephen, and John Church, who are like such bros, and I love it. Like, I wish those three had more time together, because honestly, that was probably one of my favorite parts of the book, was just them talking and like the bros. But anyway, and Angelica just goes off on Hamilton for being poor, and for not having a name, and for not having a family. It's deep cuts too. Like, it's not just like tiny insults. Like, these are attacks. That dinner was literally the Hamilton roast. And I get why it happened, because Angelica knew something her sisters didn't know about, like, their family situation and how they didn't have any money, because she's got the letter. But it's kind of a lot when you're first reading it. I did read this book twice, and the second time I went through, I was like, okay, I kind of get a little bit more. But the silver lining of that is that it really shows that Angelica loves her sisters a lot. She does the same thing with Stephen Van Rensselaer. I don't know. You figure out how to pronounce that. Well, you probably all know. I'm just stupid. And that was a thing I really loved about this book, was it takes the Schuyler sisters from Hamilton and their bond and just kind of inflates it into a novel, and I love that. So now that we've talked about Angelica, we're gonna get into the ending, because the ending and kind of the final conflict of the novel is just a lot. It's a lot. So what happens is that Mrs. Schuyler, their mother, writes them and basically says, you all have to get married now, because we don't have any money left, and if you guys wait, people will find out we don't have any money and no one will want to marry you. And so Angelica goes and elopes with John Church, an Englishman, and Mrs. Schuyler tells Eliza, you have to marry this kid, Henry Livingston, who is the brother of your friend Kitty. And one of the most poignant moments in the novel is after Eliza reads the letter and she finds out that she's marrying this guy Henry. She says, I'll find it, hold on. She says, Eliza is staring off into the distance, and she says, he pulled my pigtails when we visited the Livingstons in Elizabethtown when I was 11. Henry would sneak up on me and pull my pigtails from beneath my bonnet. She looked at her sister forlornly. That is all I know about my future husband. And then later, the last line of the chapter, she says, if he so much as touches my hair now, she said out loud, I swear I'll cut his hand off. And I legit almost threw the book across the room, because I was like, get it, Eliza, yeah. And when you find out how much of an ass Henry Livingston is, like, oh my god, he's so gross. And he was so gross and douchebaggy that upon my first reading of this, I was like, I'm placing a bet that he just doesn't want to marry Eliza. So he thinks that if he is an ass to her and makes her hate him, then she'll go run off to her parents and say, I don't want to marry this guy, and he'll get out of it too. That's what I thought was happening. But no, he's just an ass who later attacks her. And that's not the part about the ending that I find, like, absolutely ridiculous. Like, I get it. So this is the part about the ending that I find absolutely ridiculous. So Hamilton goes to this bachelor party for Henry Livingston. And then he finds out that she's married, but she's not. So he, goes to Eliza's house and then sees Henry, like, hitting her. So he goes in and, like, and... But then her aunt is like, no, you still have to marry him, blah, 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 blah. So then Alex rides to Albany, New York to go convince her parents to let her marry him. And en route to Albany, he has to switch horses because he wants to, like, keep going throughout the night and he doesn't want to wait for his horse to, like, rest. So he has to switch horses, and then he leaves blood on one of the horses, and the horse goes back, and, like, someone finds the horse, and then everyone's like, oh my god, Hamilton's dead. And then Eliza thinks Hamilton's dead. And he's in this forest, and then these bandits come out of nowhere, or, like, redcoats or whatever, and, like, hurt him. And then he somehow finds out that Benedict Arnold is a traitor from all of this. And then, which is, like, why? And then he somehow, dazed and confused, makes it to the Schuyler mansion and sleeps for 2 days, and then somehow convinces her parents to let him marry him, even though, like, I just don't understand how her parents could 180 so quickly. Like, her mom was like, you have to marry him. Like, Eliza was considering, like, disowning herself from her family just so she wanted to marry him. Like, there was no, like, I'm gonna marry Alex instead. Like, she was gonna go be a governess somewhere because she just didn't want to marry Henry Livingston. And then all of a sudden, oh, you can marry Hamilton now. And that's completely fine. And that was just really weird. Also, I don't know why I had to involve Benedict Arnold into this. Like, I get, like, that's an important part of history. But, like, that's not how that happened. And yes, Hamilton was there for the whole Benedict Arnold conflict, but he did not find out about it when he's riding through the countryside of New York, going to try to save this courtship with a girl he really likes. Like, it just made no sense to me. And, like, I was reading it and I was like, okay, like, I really don't understand what's going on here, but okay. And then they go back, like, Hamilton and her parents, like, travel back to Morristown, and they, like, stop the wedding. And these parents that were, like, really, really adamant about their children marrying, just, like, come to an agreement in, like, 45 seconds. Like, I just don't understand what prompted the change in their thinking. Like, they're still just as poor. Hamilton is still just as poor. He still has the same position. He still has no name. And it just, like, it doesn't really make any sense to me. Like, I'm not, like, it was just kind of weird. It's cute, but it's weird. Final thing I want to say, I guess, is I did like this book a lot. I think its characterizations of both Eliza and Hamilton were, like, on point. I really liked how she portrayed them. I really liked how she portrayed Peggy. And we get to know Peggy more in this than we ever got to know her in the musical, and it was really cool. And I do like how it encompasses history. I'm a history nerd, geek, buff, whatever. And so while I didn't quite get why Benedict Arnold had to be in it, I did appreciate Benedict Arnold being in it. So I really liked it, and I would recommend this to anyone looking for kind of a light read, or who likes Hamilton, or who likes history, or who likes love stories. Like, this book has a very wide audience. And I really liked it. This is definitely a go-to book if I'm ever, like, bored or anything now, because it's really cute. So yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!